Screen Time Stories is presented by Pinwheel. With Pinwheel, you get to set limits on your child's smartphone to match their maturity level. As your child grows, you can open up more features to guide their independence. There are many options that come with a Pinwheel smartphone, like allowing approved contacts only, remotely monitoring messages, selecting expert-vetted apps based on professional guidance, and scheduling modes to keep your kids living in the moment. Connect authentically with a Pinwheel smartphone for kids and teens. For a 10% discount, use code PODCAST10 at checkout.
Hello and welcome. I hope this season of Screen Time Stories has been good to y'all so far. Today I'm very excited to welcome 16-year-old Jose Santana. He's here to help us get a better understanding of what kids face with tech these days. Thanks for joining me, Jose. I know that you're in high school, you're a junior in high school, but it sounds like you have maybe one or two other things going, maybe three, maybe four. Tell me about yourself.
I own a business and I'm in 2 internships. And then that doesn't include the Student Advisory Council. And then there's a few other programs. Then there's church that I'm leading, youth group. And there's all these things. And it's pretty interesting because back in October, November is when I just applied for all these programs, and now it's whoa.
Everybody was like, yes, we will take you. What are your internships and your job?
So first internship is a podcast company where I'm basically making, that's pretty funny. This is actually for a podcast. So I'm actually making a podcast episode for a podcast, basically about school start times here in New York City, which is where I live. And so the second internship it's more educational, where they're just basically paying me to learn how to code, digital marketing skills, things like that. It's very education and project based. And both of those are downtown Manhattan. So I have to go 2 days a week down there right after school. And then, I own a business, which thankfully it's a very small business. It's not anything crazy. It's just me, but it's still, I still do have clients and stuff. I still have, because it's a service-based business, so I don't have a product. It's a service that I do.
Yeah.
I make websites for people. So, cool. Yeah.
Dude, you're busy.
Yeah.
And you go to school on top of that. You're a full-time high school student.
And then that's on top of this junior year is the hardest year too.
Yeah.
But I've throughout the past few weeks, I definitely have had to drop a few minor things, but it's still a lot. And so it's at the point where in these internships I can't leave. It's already been halfway through. So it's pretty much I just have to find a way to manage it all. And I totally understand how important mental health is. And the fact that I know so much about mental health.
Yeah, it sounds like you're on the burnout track. You probably are going to have hundreds of parents listening to you say this and yelling at their speakers, take care of yourself, wear a coat, bring your water bottle, don't forget sunscreen. I'm kidding, but I also want you to do these things.
Exactly. I had no idea what I was getting myself. I just applied. I was like, oh yeah, because I know internships are gonna help me. All this kind of they're helping. Yeah. They're good. Yeah. But it's too much good. It's bad. So,
what is your goal? Are you trying to go to college?
Yeah. I do want to go to college. I'm currently in kind of the application process.
Yeah.
I wanna. I've been really to annoying my college counselor at school. Because I'm that kid that I want to get started now. I don't want to wait till senior year, to start. No, I want to do things now.
What's your top school? What's your dream school?
I guess my dream school would probably be MIT. I have to say.
Amazing.
But chances are I'm probably not gonna get there. Um, I'm gonna be real. But I do know there are definitely a lot of good colleges in CUNY, the system in New York City.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of. I've definitely visited a few. I actually just visited one on last Friday.
Okay, well, I think you deserve it. I understand that you are on the Digital Wellness Lab Student Council. And what that is a collaboration between Harvard University and Boston Children's Hospital, just making an effort to understand and do research on how technology impacts kiddos these days.
I actually also participated in the panel, the Safer Internet Day panel, which I was really pumped for that opportunity. I was kind of sad they didn't do it this year because I would have loved to participate.
What is that all about? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so last year, basically the National PTA partnered up with Discord. Well, they actually partnered up with a bunch of social medias like I think TikTok, Snapchat as well, but they partnered up with Discord and they basically hosted on Discord a panel where basically there were, I think, 4 or 5 moderators, like teen moderators specifically, that were basically on a kind of Q&A, public Q&A, where there was like parents in the audience, educators, and other moderators, and it was all those kind of people from the PTA. And then I was one of the 5 team mods that were there. And so, these 5 mods were pulled out from the moderator mentorship community, because I guess it made sense. It was the easiest place for like Discord to find teens that could really like talk about their experiences. And so it was February, February last year, Safer Internet Day. It was I think, because the National PTA does like a Safer Internet week. So one of the nights, was that panel.
Cool.
And it was like a good hour long. It was honestly an experience I never will forget. And actually, I remember telling like all my teachers at school about it. Like I told them to make sure they could be there.
Yeah.
And actually, there was one teacher that was there. It was my earth science teacher. And surprisingly, he actually used Discord. So I think, I was like, wow, like that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And, he was there, he was supporting me. So that was really amazing.
Can you tell me more about moderating communities in Discord? Like from your point of view, what kinds of things would you tell parents to look out for?
The most important thing that I've learned, I think I would say a lot of it is safety practices. Yeah. For a parent, I mean, I will say first off, I can't believe being a parent in 2023. It is hard with all these social media, these distractions. It's so, I mean, yeah, I can't even just say, or understand that, I guess. But I will say, probably best practices. There are so many, but I guess like some of them, like most obvious ones are like, don't click suspicious links. And I think, that's a good place to start. Just securing your your accounts on the platforms that you use, especially like Gmail, things like that are used the most. Because if you lose that, then that's not fun. Nobody likes that.
Yeah.
And I would definitely say from experience, it is not fun. Like for example, my dad, last December of last year, we were on vacation and we went to Florida for like a good 3 weeks. And so my dad has a YouTube channel with like 17,000 subscribers.
Cool.
So yeah.
Cool dad.
Yeah. He's not so much of a tech nerd, I guess, but he knows his stuff. I'm not gonna take away any credit from him. But what happened was that, while we were in Florida, there was like, it turns out he received this email from quote unquote YouTube, saying, see, there was some problems, and he clicked the this link or this button that led into this file. He downloaded something, and sooner or later, his whole YouTube account was just turned. You know, I don't know if you've seen like how some YouTube accounts they get like turned into something completely different. By like, you know, those hijackers.
Yeah.
That happened to him while we were at Florida. And so, you know, he left like his backup password. He actually forgot his password. He left it in New York here. And we were over there. And so like, you know, something like this, like it was really, really, really stressful for my dad because my dad has had this channel since I think 2011. And he's been uploading, like he uploads videos every single day nonstop. Wow. So he actually puts in a lot of effort into the channel. And for it to just be gone like that is not fun at all. Honestly, I don't want to like brag, but I think he is lucky that he has me. You know, I immediately like went like, come on, YouTube support, like we gotta do something.
Was he able to get his stuff back, all of his content, and like retrieve his channel and everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, like the whole channel is pretty much wiped. Like on his end, he didn't have access to his Gmail or YouTube. So when he like went to his channel, it basically showed like Tesla, US, something like it was changed, you know, to something else. And none of his videos were there. So, like, him seeing that, it was like, if these videos are deleted, I'm going to freak out, you know?
Would your dad mind if we all watched his YouTube videos?
Would he mind?
Would he mind? I'm curious now. I want to see your dad's YouTube channel.
Yeah, his videos are in Spanish.
Okay.
The videos that he uploads daily are just, like, messages, like, kind of like reflection audio.
Oh, I love that. Do you have a big family, or is it just you and your dad?
It's just me, my two parents, and I have two sisters. I'm the one in the middle.
Cool.
So it's us 5.
Cool.
Yeah.
Aw, that's cute. And then did your parents, you said your dad, is he a native Spanish speaker, or is that just how he prefers to do his videos?
Yeah, so my parents are immigrants. They're from the Dominican Republic. And so, yeah, they both speak Spanish. I think they came here in like 2003, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, they both speak Spanish. Like Spanish is their first language. They don't speak English. But they know their stuff. You know, they can get away with a few things here and there. Yeah, I mean, clearly enough to you know do what they do.
Yeah. What about you? Are you bilingual, or are you mostly on the English side?
Yeah. So I was born here, luckily. So, you know, I grew up, I was actually born here in New York City. So I've grown up here my whole life, except for 6 months that I spent in Kentucky. But I slightly remember those 6 months. That was when I was like a toddler around there. But yeah, I mainly speak English. I hope that's clear.
No, of course. I just think it's cool that, you know, you can speak more than just English. What part of New York City are you in?
I'm in the Bronx. Yeah, I go to school in the Bronx. The 2 internships that I'm in are Manhattan. So yeah, I have to take that subway. I think the Bronx, because you know New York City is divided into 5 boroughs. I've lived in the Bronx my whole life. And I will say there are parts of it that I like, parts that I don't like. I think if there's one thing that I really, probably like one of the things that I hate the most about the Bronx is the amount of people that smoke. I personally find that very annoying because I personally will never smoke in my life. I do not have any interest in it. That is my opinion, and I'm staying true to it. So like, you know, so when I'm like walking to school, for example, I'll, you know, just be on my, in my business, and I'll randomly like just walk into this like cloud of smoke.
Oh man.
And yeah, it'll be like for like 2 seconds, but like.
Yeah, it's enough though. But I want to hear more from you about things like video gaming and social media.
Yeah, so throughout the past, so I guess to give you some context, back in late June of last year, I made a decision to officially quit video games and quit social media as a whole. Now, when I say social media back then, or in June, I still used Discord, because I personally do not see Discord as a social media, because there's no ads. You make the platform what you want it to be. And I didn't like use it as a social media. So I used it for like kind of like volunteer work, because I was like running communities and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then like YouTube, I only use YouTube for like educational purposes. And I kind of have my channel, which I haven't had the time to upload many videos, but I have that on the side.
Are you going to share your YouTube channel too?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So yeah, like in June, I decided to just delete my Instagram. Delete my Twitter. I'd never really used TikTok, which I am so thankful for, because I have some strong feelings about TikTok, but that's that. But
I want to hear about that too.
I pretty much got rid of. I don't use Facebook. I didn't use Snapchat. Although Snapchat was the first social media I did use back in 5th grade. I definitely remember that. But I pretty much took that, I guess you could say, detox.
Yeah.
And so it's been like, since then to like February of this year, pretty much March, I have not used, Instagram, none of that. And it is definitely, I think I've benefited from it, especially, and I guess like to give you kind of like the reason why behind my decision, especially like quitting video games. Quitting video games is actually, that decision that I made is permanent. I do not expect to be returning to those, because what happened was that I was actually a video game addict. And that is a big story. I know video games aren't necessarily social media, but that is a very big problem that I had throughout basically my childhood, or at least, entering high school, finishing middle school. That was a big problem for me. I was pretty much addicted to video games. And so eventually, after so much struggle, so much trying to quit, I eventually did quit in June of last year. And I have not touched them ever since. And that has definitely changed my life, I will say. Because it's an addiction,
Yeah.
May not have been drugs or whatever, but it's definitely an addiction. It definitely has had its effects.
Yeah.
But that like big challenge that I've overcame definitely has played a big role in my life.
I mean, that's totally valid, because video games give you that same stimuli. It makes you want more. And I think it's totally valid to call it an addiction. I think that's really special that you were able to do that at a younger age. And like, it sounds like it took you a while to actually kick the habit.
It took me 8 months since basically November of 2021 is when I had the desire to want to quit, right? That's when I said this is a problem, I want to quit.
Now, how did you recognize that though? Because that's a huge turning point, is just having that acknowledgement.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of teens are stuck. They don't realize, that this is doing something to them. They think that they're fine. And that's honestly one of the worst things that can happen, right? When you're indulging in something and you think you're fine. Because it's kind of like, I think there's a phrase that says where somebody wins a war without the other party knowing that they're losing or something like that. It's kind of like that. But I think, back in November 2021, it was really, I think a lot of it was really just because, obviously my parents never wanted me to play video games. That, I have kind of strict parents. So I'm thankful for that, because it was a struggle. I remember back when I was 10 years old, I had this new PC, new computer, and I got into Fortnite, I got into these games and stuff. And I was really into that, but my mom did not want it at all. So there was that. And it even got to the point I will never forget the story. This day where my mom actually made me throw out my PC, and it was a desktop PC. And me personally, my mom has never let me have a console. At all. I've never owned a console in my life. I've always been a PC kind of guy. And I mean, I was 10 years old, you know, so for that time, like, I definitely got so emotional about it.
Yeah.
It was, I don't even know. It was hard for me.
I'm
like,
sure,
you know, like,
because you've become so attached to it. It's like losing a friend, probably.
I think more than a friend, honestly. More than a friend. Like, I don't even know how to describe. I mean, I guess best friend, really. But I think it really just becomes a part of you, you know, your identity. And so, you know, throughout like the, you know, since I was like 10 and 15, because technically June of last year, I was still 15. So technically I quit when I was 15 because my birthday's in July. But, you know, throughout like these years, I've definitely been hiding it, you know, from my parents. They never really knew so much, you know, that I was really into all. And the crazy part is I was actually a content creator. Like I had a pretty good following, you know, when I played video games and stuff on like Twitch, and YouTube. I remember I had kind of like my streaming career, which that was that.
I mean, no, I hear you. Like, that makes it that much harder to step out of, because then you've got
100%.
this, you know, entire community supporting
100%.
your gaming.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I could even say there's even like some stimulation from that. Like,
Yeah.
like, you know, me like live streaming with like 100 people, you know, hosting like an event, like that was one of the best things for me, you know, back then. Like I absolutely loved that. I would do that. I remember this was, you know, in COVID and stuff, the pandemic. I would literally live stream while being in my Zoom class in school. I would live stream, except when I did those kind of live streams during school, I wouldn't use my microphone.
Yeah.
So I would literally multitask between live streaming a game and in my class.
Yeah. So that's when you started to say, this is not healthy.
Yeah, and it was like, you know, November of 2020. I think, you know, going back to like the question that you asked, you know, how I came to that realization, a lot of it was just like, you know, usually like, you know, in those days, you know, I would play a lot, you know, until sometimes a bit late, like 10, 11. I mean, I've definitely played until later on some occasions. But, you know, like usually what happened was that like I would, you know, these days would pass by. I would get off the game at like, let's say 10 p.m. and I would just sit down and be like, I'm off the game. Like, what now? You know, it's like, we're back in real life. You know, it's hitting me in the face. And so I will say the biggest thing that really hit me hard was me realizing how much I was wasting my time. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. Like, I was literally thinking to myself and reflecting. And sometimes even definitely while I was playing the games, throughout like early of last year, you know, I would literally think to myself, Jose, you are literally wasting your time right now. But it's literally a whole mental battle. It's a battlefield, a whole mental battlefield. You know, I think I really thought back to like back when I was in 7th grade. I think I was 9 in 7th grade. That's crazy. I remember I got like an F. Yeah, I think I got like a 60 in my math class in 7th grade in one of the quarters. And that was not fun for me because I've been a math lover since I was a little kid. So for me to like fail math in 7th grade, that for like my mom and me, that was like, what is happening? You know, math is my favorite subject. You know, I've always been a math and techie kind of guy. So, you know, like when I was like thinking like video games have literally made me lose my potential. And like, you know, in like November 2021, like I would think like, I'm literally wasting my potential. I would like repeat that. So like, you're wasting your potential. You're wasting your time. You could be doing homework. You could be doing this. You could be doing millions of things. And you're here in a video game that, you know, the way I saw it, it does not help me in any way, realistically. And so, you know, between that and November, I would just, I honestly made so many efforts. Like I really tried so hard between November 2021 and June of last year, till eventually, you know, it was like that period there was literally just straight up like battle literally between, you know, me with these games. And eventually, you know, I finally just dropped it, and I was like, you know, why not? Let's drop social media too for a while.
Yeah.
You know, because why not? Like, it would help me anyways. And so yeah, I mean, since June of last year and today, I honestly feel like I'm like a completely different person. Not completely, but I've definitely changed a lot. And to the point where like nowadays, and actually just today at school, I was talking with some of my buddies about like how I'm like contemplating making an Instagram account again. I was like, what do you guys think? And you know, I'm currently, you know, thinking about it. Because you know, I'm kind of like visualizing me having it, and I would really only have like an Instagram and to like share content that actually helps other young people, you know, positive things like that, not to like definitely not waste my time like scrolling and all that. That's like why I've never really gotten to TikTok. That's one of the reasons. Because I very, very much understand that how these platforms are built. They're meant to be addictive. Like that's just the real truth, you know, just the way they're built, they're meant to be addictive. And I'm honestly so glad I have been aware of that. And, you know, one thing like this ties into me learning about mental health, you know, learning, like, I'm so grateful I've learned about mental health, social media, and like truly like my experience, like going back to the story I mentioned with my mom, like I'm grateful that my mom made me throw out my computer and then you know, all these like battling things. Because now it's like looking back, like I've learned so much, I've experienced so much, and I'm only 16 years old. Like, and when I think like it blows my mind because the amount of people that are like going through what I'm going through at like the age of 30. And, you know, after like all this, and I'm literally in the middle of my junior year going, you know, and transitioning to like high school, and I'm going through all of this, and I've pretty much overcome a lot of it at this point. It's just, I can't even believe it myself. So, yeah.
Well, it sounds like you didn't have a moment of realization, really. It sounds like this was a very slow 180 for you to make. Like, it took you years and it took you months of really concerted effort to try to just drop the habit. And like the only way for you, and I know everybody's different. Like some people are able to like game in moderation and, you know, go do something else. Everybody's unique and different. But it sounds like for you, like you just had a really hard time scaling back and you just wanted to drop it altogether to create time for stuff like internships and preparing for and applying to MIT.
That kind of ties into that, you know, like, you know, the internships and things like that.
Well, when you were like making these efforts over the years and, you know, especially that last chunk of time, was there anybody that were you talking to anybody about this? Was anybody like coaching you or mentoring you to like try to get you out of that addiction? Or do you feel like it was really just something that you took on yourself? Like, how did that work?
Yeah, so I will say this whole like journey has been very lonely, you know, the video game stuff, very lonely. And I will say like I do strongly believe, you know, a lot of like, you know, obviously I personally believe gaming does have a negative effect on the brain and just the human, especially the teen. I mean, and especially the child, to go even a step further. And so, you know, like, I guess focusing on like that gap between like November 2021 and June last year, where I was really fighting. That was I didn't really, you know, have a friend that I was able, or like anybody. Unfortunately, not even my parents. You know, because like, and that was another battle with it too, because I was hiding all of this from my parents. So for me to like talk to my parents about it, like, yeah, like that's not happening. And you know, surprisingly enough, when I did make the decision to quit, I actually did have a conversation with my parents about it. I think it was like the night after, where, you know, I basically just, you know, it was me and them too, and we just like talked about it. I told them everything, and we really had, you know, it was definitely, I feel very good, relief from all of that, you know, hiding that from, like, that's not something that, you know, I want to have. But definitely, like, you know, throughout those months, I didn't really have, because, you know, and I will say, like, back then, I used Discord mainly for gaming. Absolutely. Like, for example, like, right now, I don't use Discord for gaming. Like, I don't game, I'm over that. But back then, like, that was my thing on Discord, 100%. And so, you know, I ran a lot of gaming communities. I even, like, I was even like a moderator back in 2021 of a community of this game. It was like the community of like an official game, or like the developers, like they ran it, that had like 100,000 members. So like when I had the opportunity to moderate that for like a few months, that was like the biggest thing for me, because that was the biggest server I ever moderated in. So like, you know, and you know, like, you know, going around these communities, and, you know, this could also tie back to like me being on YouTube and Twitch and having like this following of people, and, you know, really community, all these kind of like friends that I had back then. They, you know, they all played the games and stuff, like, you know, they basically kept me in a way, you know, because, I mean, I don't know if I should explain that, but, you know, like in the games, you know, these friends and people that I have, this community, they really encouraged me and pushed me, you know, to stay there. Especially like the following, because, you know, there's that stimulation and that feel good part of it. Yeah, I mean, like, those people were pretty much pulling me back. But, you know, it really came to the point where I realized, like, these people are not my friends, you know, like, and it was all online anyways. And, you know, I did definitely think that, you know, some of them were friends. I didn't really have, ever, like, a close friendship. Not, like, I'll say, like, a really close friendship where, like, I called someone, like, my best friend,
Right.
kind of thing. So I guess I could say I'm grateful for that, because if I did have that, that would have made things maybe difficult, maybe.
That's interesting. I think that's so interesting, because I feel like that's one of the positive things about social media and like Discord, and you're able to, like, especially when you have something weird going on like lockdown. I think that it's like interesting to hear about you talking about relationships that you have online versus relationships that you have in real life being like not as good of quality, because like that's, you know, that's supposed to be the perk, because it's like you get to connect with everybody. So
yeah, I have a lot to say about that, because especially, like, I will say on Discord once again, it even got to the point where, like, back in like 2020, I don't really tell this to anybody, but I will tell you, I even had online relationships with people that I've never met in person. I had a couple, which once again, it's one of those things where, like, I'm very grateful I had the experience, but I'm definitely never doing that again. Especially, like, I was like 14, 15. But like that definitely has shown me that, like, online, you know, relationships and just, well, I'm not talking about like actual like dating, but I mean like just relationships in general, like friendships and communication is very, very different. And that's very good, very, very helpful to understand. But I absolutely agree with that.
Jose, you're the coolest. I'm so grateful that you just gave me all of this like honest stuff about yourself. And I just think that's really like as far as humans go, I just feel like that's one of the most generous things that a person can do is just bring their honest self. And so I just really appreciate you. And I hope you get into MIT so bad.
And I really just want a college where I can just be the best I can and just make a difference. You know, I think that's really what I'm looking for. You know, I the way society is built and just education and many things, I honestly just hope for nothing but change for the better for the youth.
Wow, I absolutely love that mindset. And so it's sometimes hard to tell from the outside, but I hope whichever school you end up attending, you feel that once you're there. And I just can't wait to see what happens next for you, Jose. So keep in touch. And thank you everybody that's listened today. I appreciate you all taking the time to hear Jose's story and apply whatever you learned to your own teenagers and kids. We just take into account what makes sense for you and your family. And remember, it's not about being a perfect parent. It's just about being good enough. We'll see you next week, or talk to you next week. I'll talk to you next week.